Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody.
Hey everybody, got my friend with me, Sammie Smith today, and Sammie has been on one of the earlier episodes. In fact, you can find him also on YouTube, his audio as well as his video that we did almost, I think, 4 years ago. Sammie and I have stayed in touch, but not nearly enough to get another podcast episode. So here we are today, and we're making this happen. Sammie, appreciate your time. I know that you're always busy and got things going. How you doing tonight?
Doug, man, I'm doing awesome. I'm in a transition period right now. I've spent the last 7 years in Oxford, Mississippi, working with Ole Miss's football program.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm currently preparing to move back to Mount Dora. I'll be working with FCA Outdoors for the state of Florida. So I'll be engaging kids that are involved in the non-traditional sports, fishing and hunting, archery, equestrian, trying to meet kids where they are and trying to create opportunities to share the gospel and to be impactful to more kids other than just the football and baseball and basketball players.
No, that sounds very interesting. How in the world did they come up with that? For you, especially, Mr. College Football, NFL, track star, and now you're going to fishing and other sports like that.
Well, I've always liked outdoor stuff. I mean, I've really enjoyed fishing over the years, and here the last probably 3 years or so, I got intrigued with offshore fishing, and so that's a hobby that I really enjoy. And, the opportunity has come up where, bass fishing right now is a huge deal, in high school and in college. I mean, there's tons of college teams and kids are actually getting scholarships to go to college for bass fishing.
No, I absolutely know that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Females and males. And so just all the changes right now with football, with the transfer portal and the NIL and, the coaches being there for 1 or 2 years and then they're off and running, to another program. I just felt that my family and I, my wife and I in particular, wanted to be engaging in some kids and stuff that were more stable. Stable environment to be able to pour into kids for more than just a season. And God kind of showed me that this FCA Outdoors may be exactly what we've been looking for. And, I've got my first major event already on the books. We've got a junior/high school bass classic, FCA Outdoors Bass Classic, set for August 12th. and 13 on the Harris chain over out of Hickory Point. So we're promoting that now and have some good prizes and great opportunity for ministry and, for donor development, also for FCA staff across the state and neighboring states.
No, that is absolutely amazing. And I had heard nothing about that, but it makes perfect sense considering where things have been and just the way you're explaining it. And I did know about that because one of my friend's sons is on scholarship at the University of Florida on a fishing scholarship. His focus is on the pro circuit eventually. I think it's just amazing because there are a lot of things out there. I was just talking to a guy from Crew, formerly Campus Crusade for Christ, for those who don't know. And not only that, but gaming has become like a sport, or they consider it a sport in the university system. I don't know how it has in the high school system, whatever. But you've got fishing, you've got, what are some of the other sports that you're dealing with?
We're going to try to engage really donors, donor development pieces with, quail hunting, turkey hunting, offshore fishing, archery seems to be a big deal for young kids. And I've got a good friend of mine, Paul Fitzgerald, here locally, that has some acreage over in Sorrento area. And I've went out and visited his property there with him, and have envisioned doing some archery stuff there, getting kids involved in that. I'm really interested to learn more about barrel racing. That seems to be something that young ladies are really engaged in. And so just trying to find, again, whatever vehicle that can open the door for Shalonda and I to do ministry and impact kids and to put on events that will bring people out to support kids and give kids something to do. Other than, again, don't get me wrong now, I love football and I can't wait for the Florida State LSU game this year. So
sure.
I will be tuning in, and I'll stay on top of, Apopka and the local schools around here and continue being involved in track and field. My daughter's going to be going to Outdoor Christian, and she runs track and plays basketball and volleyball. So I will be engaged in all those sports, but I'm really making an intentional effort to tap into the fishing and hunting and archery. And someone even told me the other day that Frisbee has gotten to be a big deal. So just trying to get the kids outdoors. And, the gaming is an indoor sitting on the couch deal. We want to get them out and get some sun and some exercise.
That does make sense. And you're an innovative guy. You like to do things that are different and changing. And God's done a lot of changing in your life personally. So I've got a feeling that He has kind of groomed you over a couple of decades to be willing to go, okay, God, what next? Okay, you want to do what? All right, I'm on board. Does that sound about right with you?
That's exactly right. My wife, we were talking a couple, 2 or 3 months ago, and this is something I had been praying about this move for the last year. And I started implementing things and putting things in place for my exit from Ole Miss before I had even made the decision. I had a young man that was one of our football players that I mentored for the last really 7 years. And he came on staff for FCA the last 2 years. We had him working like in some of the high schools. Well, this past year, I gave him the responsibility of working with our football team, during this past season. I had him working with the players, and then I invited him to be a part of, all the coaches ministry and stuff that I did, all our coaches devotionals and our meetings with the coaches and generals, to just get him familiar and with what we do, and to get the coaches, Coach Kiffin and, the other staff that remains there, comfortable with knowing him and, what he will bring to the table. So it was a logical and easy transition to put him in that role. And he took over full-time this spring, and I'm transitioning, getting ready to, like I say, hit the pavement running. My wife said 7 is the number of completion, and June will be 7 years that I've been in Oxford, and June will be when I will be coming back to Mount Dora.
Yeah, your home area, Apopka, of course, where you grew up, but this is all your area. People know you and love you here, and your wife as well, because Shalonda was Eustis High grad, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, because she and I knew each other from that era, that time in her life. It's great to have your wife on board. It's great to have your kids on board with all this, because family is what's attacked most when you're doing ministry of any sort, but especially student ministry, and your children are growing up in student ministry. And for those of you who have not looked Sammie up or don't know as much about him, if you're a football fan, you know about Sammie Smith and his time at Apopka and Florida State and Miami Dolphins, and then also the Denver Broncos, and some other things that happened to him in between that brought him to even closer to God and to Fellowship Christian Athletes. And you can go back and listen to that. And you can go on YouTube and find several of his interviews with different people as well, but I hope you'll go see ours, because we covered a whole lot of your life when we did that. Tell me this, though. I don't know if he was. I can't remember the name of the quarterback's name for University of Central Florida now. I think he spent a year at Ole Miss. Is that right? Played baseball as well?
Oh, yeah. John Rice Plumlee was there for at least 2 seasons with us. Was a great athlete, very involved in FCA when he first got there. Comes from a tremendous family. Just an all-around great kid, man. Hated to lose him, but certainly proud of him coming to Florida and being able to help one of the Florida teams here. And so I have a great deal of respect for John Rice Plumlee, and I think he will continue to have a good career there at UCF.
Yeah, I'm sure he will, and I know that they need him, and I appreciate what you did through FCA, and because he talked about Fellowship of Christian Athletes, because he played baseball and football, I believe. Is that right?
That's correct.
And he said his baseball team especially were going to church every Sunday together and that sort of thing because of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And he called one of my friends up, Larry Stevens, who is on an interview a few episodes ago, not too many, just a few weeks ago. And Larry's in charge of a large segment of crew throughout the world, in the United States particularly. And John called him, and he said, I didn't even know John knew me. I knew about him and stuff. But the one thing he said was he talked about how incredible Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is all about you and what you brought to the picture there, and how that affected his Christian life, and how the support was there, and basically how now he's got a mission here to change the outlook of what his teams are like. Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, guys like John Rice make it easy. I mean, when you get guys that come on the campus and they're on fire, for Jesus, man, and they've got a background where they've been involved, their families invested in their relationship with Christ, and so you get a kid like that, man, and you just challenge them to be bold and to be intentional about letting their teammates see who they are and see who Christ is in their lives. That's a hard thing to do on that college level, because you got all kind of different people that come from different backgrounds, and sometimes a kid may not be as bold as he should be. And our job is as staff is to walk alongside those kids and coaches, right? And
yes,
to help them realize the platform that they have, and to not take it for granted, and to use it for kingdom value. And and coming from my growing up and my career, and how I pursued being a great athlete, and all the worldly things that came with being an athlete, I certainly realized as an older man now, and even as a younger man when I came to know Christ, that it's so important to use the tools that God has given us to be impactful to other people, and to share the gospel, man, to share the love of Christ. And so John Rice Plumlee made my job really easy.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear, because we all need those students, don't we?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Once again, tell me about, in fact, it's not for me, it's for those youth workers that we're trying to go the distance, and some that are going the distance, but they've hit walls, whether they've been in student ministry of some sort, or as a volunteer or something, for a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. We all hit walls. And the longer you stay in, you hit multiple walls, like running a marathon, like doing a triathlon or an ultra marathon, something like that. You're going to hit walls, because there's always resistance when you're penetrating darkness with light. So tell us about some of the walls that you hit in Ole Miss. Though, I mean, just tell me one of the worst moments and one of the best moments. I always like to do that, because we relate best with worst moments. And then let's talk about worst and best moments transitioning here.
Well, Doug, honestly, I haven't hit any outside walls per se while at Ole Miss. I did start to feel again, I just mentioned about the transfer portal, having a kid that may sign as a freshman this year, and then, 8-9 months later, he's in the transfer portal, and you don't really have an opportunity to go deep with the kid. And so the landscape has changed. So I would say that's a wall. Coaches, the turnover in coaches. Man, I've had 3 head coaches in the 7 years I've been there now. Coach Kiffin is going on his 4th year, but I can give you an example. And Shalonda and I, we're passionate about coaches' ministry and wives, right, and their spouses, and even the female coaches and their husbands. And so last year, we took 12 couples to Destin, Florida, and had 3 nights with them, in 3 days, just pouring into them, enjoying our time with them, allowing them to get away from the game of football and, for these husbands to, spend time with their wives without the kids and pouring into them and having time to talk about marriage. Well, this year, of those 12 couples that we had last year, there's only 2 of them that are still at Ole Miss now.
Wow.
And so and some of those had only been there for 1 season. Probably half or more of those had only been there 9 months. And then they're transitioning somewhere else. And so I just felt like, we could be used better in another area right now. And I think that's the thing is when you stay connected with God and you seek Him and you pray about things and ask Him to show you what He has for you to do. Is your time complete there? I think He will ultimately give you the answer, whether it's stay or whether it's go. And He clearly gave me the answer that, I have another purpose for you and your family right now. And it's back in the state of Florida, building FCA outdoors up for the state of Florida. And what better place to do FCA outdoors when you're talking about fishing than in Lake County?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
I couldn't ask for a better place to launch this next season of ministry for Shalonda and I. And we still have a heart and a passion for coaches and spouse ministry. And so we will continue to do that. I had a bunch of the coaches that have asked me, when we were leaving, and some that have gone on that have stayed in touch with us. Man, will y'all continue to put on, a coach's getaway in the month of June? And I said, absolutely. We won't do it this year because we're transitioning, but next year, I sure hope to be able to, put together something maybe over at Universal, one of the resorts there, where we can have college coaches and maybe some local high school coaches and their spouses come there for, a 3-night deal and be able to just pour into them. And so I don't think that FCA Outdoors is going to be the only thing Shalonda and I are doing. We're going to try to let God use us to the maximum of our potential that He's put in us.
That's what we all hope to do. That's what we need to do. But you know what? Some people don't understand. And if they go back and listen, because I don't want to go into all of your story again, even though I'd love to. But, when we go through certain types of pressures, it prepares us for the pressures that we're going to face. And the pressures you've faced over the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years probably seems minimal to the stuff that you went through in the NFL, going to prison for some things, and then God turning everything around there, and then going into full-time ministry. And I'm going to guess that God has toughened you up in ways that we think of football and we think of the NFL, especially when they call NFL not for long.
Yeah.
Those initials as just brutal places of training and grit and grind. But God has a way of using all those things to help us face spiritual battles that are even much tougher because we're not fighting against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, as the scripture says.
Absolutely.
But I'm excited about what you're doing. I mean, didn't hear about this kind of transition or anything, and you and I just talked.
I can tell you this, 2 Saturdays ago, well, this Saturday will be 2 Saturdays ago, spring game weekend in Tallahassee. I went there. I drove over that Friday from Oxford, Mississippi, that morning, Friday morning, and I was there for the weekend to do some donor development. I've got some donors there that contribute and give to FCA for Shalonda and I. And so whenever I get a chance to to visit different places where people give, I want to make it a point to, go have dinner with them. And so this particular weekend, my running back coach from Florida State, Billy Sexton, we were putting on a dinner for him that Sunday night, which would have been, the Sunday after the Saturday game. And he had a stroke back in August of last year, and it's recovering, but it's been a trying time for him and his wife Joy, and of course his kids, and so it was super exciting to be able to be there to bring a smile to his face, and someone that's been impactful in my life, man, and that has been the epitome of what a coach is, what a coach should be. And I had someone at that event. I shared something that was really, I thought, impactful that night. And don't have time to share it all now, but what he meant to me. And but I had someone in a sidebar ask me, said, "Well, Sammie, man, if you could go back and change any era of your life, any episode, anything, if you can go back to a certain time, what would it be?" And without hesitation, I told him I wouldn't change a thing. Because if it took anything that I had gone through for me to experience the love of God and to have the relationship I have now, and the impact that I can have by trusting in God and just being obedient and being willing to go out and to do the work, then I probably wouldn't be here in this role right now. I probably wouldn't be enjoying the relationship I have with God. I probably wouldn't be have the platform to be able to pour into coaches and athletes right now. So I wouldn't change a thing. I think that God has me right where He has me, and the road that it took to get here was one that I definitely don't regret, because it's helped create the man that I am today.
And that's spoken like a true man and a true man of God that's been through some rough times, because that's how we should feel. Someone once said that if we can't embrace the bad things that happen in our life, the family members that we wish we didn't have, or the friends or people that have betrayed us and everything, we wouldn't be who we turned out to be. And especially if we've had great things to happen in our life, we should embrace those things that were hard, that were tough, that were painful. And so you've just said that, and I thank you for reminding us.
Well, Doug, I cringe like every time. Now, I'm going to be speaking next Monday at I think it's First Presbyterian of Outdoor. I'm going to be speaking at the North Lake County FCA, their MVP type banquet, MVP banquet deal where they honor, coaches and athletes. And so Bobby Rowe, who is our representative here, he texted me, I guess about maybe a week and a half or so ago, and asked me to send a bio. And of course I just start, typing up stuff to send him so he'll have something to put on, on their media stuff. And but when I look at that, everything that's on there is worldly accomplishments from sports, from high school and college and professional. And I just laugh at it because I say, I'm so thankful that I'm living in greater now. That's our motto for FCA for this year. That's our theme, is greater. And I'm so thankful that, man, I have a greater purpose now. All that stuff was good and it was fun, working to achieve that. But I work now and train for a much, much greater purpose and reward than the accolades that you could ever talk about in sports.
That just about leaves me speechless, and I'm very seldom speechless. You're such a humble guy. And Sammie, I know you probably cringe when I say that, because humble people don't like to hear that they're humble. And so, but I'm just grateful that you came into my life before you went to Ole Miss, and that I got to see you in action, and that we've been able to stay in touch. And I know I know we talked about Shalonda giving her story sometime. We need to do that. And I want to do that sooner than later because you and she both have been on some real adventures before y'all met and after you met and now.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing better than a wife that supports who you are and believes in you as a family, that you're as a family on this mission. And I know she does.
Absolutely. Doug, I'm better when I allow all of my trust and, my direction to come from Jesus. And he's the one that puts these thoughts in my head. And when he does, I act on them. I don't just sit on them. I just, hey, what do you guys think about this? Do you think this will be a good opportunity for you all? And, and so if you don't ask, you won't know. And so I try to be diligent about, if something comes to my mind that I feel like has been placed on my heart, to share it with staff and then it's up to them to take it and run with it.
I think that's great leadership. The one thing that true leaders do is they try to take people with them, and it sounds like that's what you do. You go, what about this?
Absolutely.
And it's like a confirmation from God when you hear others go, man, we hadn't thought about that, but now we are thinking about that, and that's a great idea. We talk about volunteers here, and when you're talking about the board members of Fellowship Christian Athletes, you're talking about volunteers giving their time.
Yes.
And so for them to be excited about something, and you're right, we don't utilize nature enough in the state of Florida, of all places. I know there's many other great places in the country, and I've been to many of them myself, and so have you, and in the world, but we are very unique in Florida that we have basically 12 months out of the year that we can play in the water and fish and do whatever else that we want to do.
Yes. Well, we'll have to get you on one of those boats.
Absolutely. Sounds great to me. Well, Sammie, listen, one last question. That's this. Tell me about Bobby Bowden. I think that maybe Bobby, we don't think of him in this light, but was probably one of the greatest youth pastors of all times. What do you think about that statement?
Well, man, I don't know the exact wording, but Billy Graham once said that a coach in one season has the opportunity or will impact more lives than the average person does in a lifetime. And man, that sums up Coach Bowden. Just think about all the lives that he's poured in and that he's shared the gospel to, and that he's had the impact. And when you think about a coach, right, a lot of times you're thinking just the players that he has to influence, but he was way bigger than that, man. Think about all those people that were in the stands, every Saturday that came to watch him, work his craft, and that got a chance to hear him share the gospel, that have had the chance to hear him speak, throughout a season, when he goes on the speaking circuits. And so, man, a coach, and that's my desire for every coach that I've had the opportunity to work with, at Ole Miss, has been that, man, that they will understand and realize the platform that they have and use it to the best of their abilities, the way Coach Bowden did. I agree with that statement you just said. He may have been the greatest youth pastor ever.
He certainly influenced strong men. Adolescence, I keep reminding people, goes to the age of 25. He was at the end of the adolescence ages of those men that he trained at Florida State University. And so when I knew he passed and I'd read his book, Called to Coach, and some of the things he said in there, and the people that came to know Christ through the death of one of the football players, I thought, man, this guy is doing what youth pastors do. He was not just coaching these guys. He was coaching them to a bigger life in Christ. He was coaching them as a pastor would his congregation.
Absolutely. And it's all about, the wins that come off the field for me. And man, he was a winner off the field, and not about the wins and losses in the game situations. But I think he won a lot of hearts and a lot of souls. And so when you look at the great ones, right, I think for a coach, man, that's where their legacy is. If you can go back and rattle off who coached up under some coaches that were great men, I can do that all day for you with Coach Bowden. Because there's tons of them that are still there today. Coach Jackson, who I just mentioned,
Yes.
Coach Gladden. I got a chance to see Coach Gladden when I was there last weekend, and Coach Mickey Andrews. They were at this event. All those men were, great men that loved God and that were a part of Coach Bowden's legacy and his tree.
And from what you and I've talked about, they loved you.
And I love them.
Well, brother, anything last comments you want to tell us, say to youth workers out there?
Well, to the youth workers, man, just keep pursuing greater purpose. Just always, if you start feeling overwhelmed or it gets to be mundane, seek God and continue to ask God to reveal to you the purpose that He has you here for. And that's what's kept me going a lot. And sometimes, again, that purpose transition and it changes, and He keeps it fresh. And so that's my 2 cents to youth workers is, man, to always be passionate about what you do. And if you feel that passion kind of waning, that's the time for you to pour into that Bible more, get on your knees and pray more, and just ask God for direction and strength.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time tonight. Thanks for doing this so late and making it happen. No, I love you, praying for you and Shalonda and your kids, and I'm just grateful that God's brought you back our way.
Hey, thank you, brother. And I look forward to being back in town and serving. Certainly hope we can have some service opportunities together in the near future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll go fishing for sure.
Thank you, brother.
All right, Sammie. I'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.